been reading about Lent and thinking about Lent, and the traditions of the church are quite powerful. So there's this phenomenal book, and I don't want to inundate you with too many books, but this is called The Mystery of Christ, which is one of Thomas Keating's three kind of pillar books. So the one about centering prayer is Open Heart, Open Mind. That's the introduction. Then there's one called The Invitation to Love, which is really a deep dive into how the inner world gets transformed. And then this one kind of really looks through the Bible and the liturgy, and just brings out some gems. So there's a section here, but he kind of goes through the year, like the Catholic churches, it begins with Christmas, and now he's doing Easter. So I'll just read you one or two things that struck me, and then I'll get to the point. It says here, Easter, with its grace of interior resurrection, is the radical healing of the human condition. Lent, which prepares us for this grace, is about what needs to be healed. And that's really powerful. So, every time we, so what Thomas Keating says is Easter has the grace of interior resurrection. Every time we remember Easter, it's not meant to be historical. It's meant to be today powerful, knowing that the power of Christ is available to resurrect inside of us, our fallen false self. But then I love this. It says Lent, which prepares us for this grace, is about what needs to be healed. And so, the traditional idea of you sacrifice chocolate or whatever, I don't know, Bob, what you're sacrificing. And I never used to celebrate or even care about Lent. But one thing I love about Lent is that I generally get too fond of alcohol over Christmas, And so I almost look forward to Lent because I drop alcohol totally. And, especially after Christmas, when you've been in Aspen and you've enjoyed these wonderful microbrews, it's quite tough. But the whole idea of Lent is to emulate the experience of Jesus in the desert. And something happens in the desert which exposes your fallen self in a fresh way. So, guys, just spiritually, whether you're sacrificing something or not, this is the season for us to say, God, expose something new, just expose the depths of my false self. Why? So that I can come to resurrection at Easter time. Not just like expose it so I can feel bad about myself, but expose it so that I can experience a healing. And so let me just go on with this beautiful little section on Keating. So he talks about the desert. And he says, Lent is the season in which the church as a whole enters into an extended retreat. Jesus went into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. The practice of Lent is a participation in Jesus' solitude, silence, and privation. And then he says this, the biblical desert is a place of purification, a place of passage. The biblical desert is not so much a geographical location, a place of sand, stones, and sagebrush, as a process of interior purification leading to the complete liberation from the false self system with its programs for happiness that cannot possibly work. And so here's, I guess, my punchline. I don't know if you guys have ever taken some time of fasting, but I remember I used to, probably did my first big fast in my second year of college, and I'd got radically fired up for Christ, and everything was amazing, and I was feeling his love, and I thought, I'm going to take a time of fasting, and it's just going to amp it up even more, and it's going to be like I'm floating in heaven. Well, as you probably know, quite the opposite happens. It's like a dark and depressing and sad time. For one big reason is that you're not getting the comfort of food. But basically, there's this mysterious thing where when you sacrifice other things that fill you up, whether it be food or news or movies or alcohol or chocolate, it almost just seems to give God the invitation. It's like a prayer to say, expose my false self. And then stuff starts coming out. And I just want to encourage us to embrace that in the next month, and then trust for an amazing resurrection. And so that's what, just imagine Jesus, he's born into the same false self system because he's fully human as we were. He's born as a baby that maybe did or didn't get picked up enough. And so now he's stripped of all of his friends. He's in the desert. And then at the end of this time in the desert, you guys know the story. The devil comes to him. Satan comes to him. And he gives him 3 temptations. And those 3 temptations are perfect mirrors to the essence of the 3 things that make up our false self. The first temptation is Jesus is super hungry. And here, let me continue from Keating, who described it much better than me. It is after
Rob, what book is this?
This is that Mystery of Christ by Mystery, which is one of his 3 big anchor books. Very highly recommended. It is after 40 days and nights, Jesus must have been desperately hungry. His reply to Satan's suggestion, because Satan said, if you're the Son of God, command these stones to become bread. His reply to Satan's suggestion is that it's not up to him to protect or save himself. It is up to the Father to provide for him. For man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. God has promised to provide for everyone who trusts in him. Jesus refuses to take his own salvation in hand and waits for God to rescue him. So that's kind of the security part of our false self, which includes physical needs and lusts. And the devil is constantly tempting us to satisfy those by the power of our own hand. Get more money, get another house, get whatever you need, get extra security. Trust in that stuff. And God's stripping us down from it. That's the most obvious thing the desert does. But then number 2, the devil took Jesus to the holy city and set him on the parapet of the temple and suggested, if you're the Son of God, throw yourself down. Scripture said he'll take his angels to take care of you. You won't stumble your foot across a stone. In other words, if you are the Son of God, manifest your power as a wonder worker. Jump off the skyscraper. When you stand up and walk, everyone will regard you as a big shot and bow down before you. This is the temptation of love, fame, and public esteem. Affection and esteem constitute the center of gravity of the second energy center. Everybody needs a measure of acceptance and affirmation. In the path from infancy to adulthood, if those needs are denied, one seeks compensation for the real or imagined deprivations of an early childhood. The greater the deprivation, the greater the neurotic drive for compensation. But Jesus rejects the happiness program that receives a glorification of the self as a wonder worker or spiritual luminary. So I've shared with you, that's my big one, guys, the need for people to like me. Jesus had a quick path to get everyone to think he's amazing, but he didn't take it. He chose rather that God's love should fill him. And then the third energy center is the desire to control events and have power over people. Satan took Jesus to a lofty mountain and displayed before him all the kingdoms of the world, promising, all these I'll bestow on you if you prostrate yourself in homage to me. The temptation to worship Satan in exchange for the symbols of unlimited power is the last-ditch effort of the false self to achieve its own invulnerability and immortality. Jesus replies, "Away with you, Satan. Scripture says you're to worship the Lord and serve him alone." Adoration of God is the antidote to pride and the lust for power. Service of others and not dominion over them is the path to true happiness. So anyway, it's a beautiful story because Jesus stood in the desert on behalf of us. He went through this stuff. He overcame it by the Spirit. We got the same Spirit in us. And so I guess I'm just kind of pronouncing a bit of what's happening in my life right now is a season where there's stuff coming up. Last night I got sent off the soccer field after the first minute with a red card. And I thought I'm the Christian guy. But, I got pushed and I got angry and then I pushed the other guy. And of course, that's when the ref sees, But anyway, so, Craig, you're talking about stuff yesterday and it's all just fine, I came home and I told my wife that I got a red card. And then, of course, she climbs onto it and says, "But I thought you're so spiritual." And I said, "Nope, I just know I need help." And so anyway, just hope that's encouraging. And it's just something to put your faith out for, to be happening as you're doing your prayer now in the next month. And then just have this massive faith that come Easter time, we just get some new freedom and breakthrough. What do you guys think?
That hit home, I'll tell you, on so many levels. It's weird how you feel like you can have it under control and then you don't.
Yeah.
It's humbling.
It's humbling.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Rob, it's a piece of what I've learned through Catholic traditions, I guess. I wouldn't otherwise been exposed to it, but just that Lenten journey and understanding, how you can leverage that to try to put yourself in that place that you just described and it draw you closer and really appreciate the resurrection at Easter and what that, really have a sense of what that means, that he's standing in our place. So it's just, it is a great story. It's great to every year to walk that Lenten journey. And, it's part of what the Catholic Church does. They have the ways of the cross, which is the 10 or 12 steps that Jesus went through before, his crucifixion. And it just really brings it home of what was done during that time. And it's good stuff.
Awesome, bro. Awesome.